Mobile gaming is one of the cheapest ways to get into YouTube, and I wanted to give just a short tour of my studio and talk about what I started with, what I have now, and the different cost points that you could go over if this is something that you wanted to do. But understand, this is not a definitive list. There are a ton of options, and it's one of the fun things is you can kind of make this your own as you go. I want to start off with microphones because this is the most important part. Honestly, your audio is so much more important than your video, and you can start with a very cheap mic. I started with a Yeti Nano, and it did the job fantastically. It's all of $39. The thing that you have to watch out for is the cheaper the microphone, the more post-processing that you have to do. I spent hours of research looking to how to EQ the thing and how to work it with GarageBand and all of that stuff. If you'd like to know my setup and all of that, hop into the Discord. I would love to talk about it and get you guys started off. The biggest thing with the Yeti Nano is it's a USB mic, and so there are no preamps. You just plug it into your computer and go. And getting started is a big part of YouTube just in general. It is so hard to just get out there for the first time and start recording, and it is so important. You won't know all the lessons that you'll need to learn until you start recording. You need to know what gear you need, what your audience will like, what appeals to folks, and what you want to create. If you'd like a little better quality mic though, the Shure MV7 is excellent. I have one of these for my wife who records with me quite often. They come in both the USB and the XLR version. The USB will run you about $250, and they just have excellent sound. This, when you look at it, is probably your 95% solution. When you think about what your audience will be hearing, you need to understand that most of the time they're going to be listening on their phones, and the audio quality isn't exactly the best, which is why I have this as a 95% solution. The sound on these is incredible, and it's good enough to get you through most of what you want to do. I have a lot of friends who have this exact mic, and they swear by it, and it's fantastic. But if you're looking for the end-all, be-all microphone, it's gotta be the SM7B. This is another Shure microphone, and these things are incredible. This has been the industry standard since 2001 for podcasters and content creators alike. If you go and watch some of your favorite content creators right now, probably about 90% of them have this exact microphone. The sound is warm, it gives you that old radio feel, and they just work out of the box, which is fantastic. The problem is this is a low gain microphone, and it absolutely needs a preamp. We're gonna talk about those in just a second, but I have to say, if you're going to splurge, this is the area to do it in. Your microphone will most likely be with you for a very long time. But again, the Yeti Nano for $40 will do you just fine. The first thing when we talk about audio interfaces that we need to address is, if you have a USB mic, you don't need an audio interface. You can completely scratch this off of your list, and that saves you quite a bit of money. What you get from an audio interface and a preamp, if you need it, is better real-time processing. When you think about lives and your videos, they need to sound the same. Your audience wants consistency in the sound of your voice, and that's over all the different areas that you record. When we talk about needing post-processing, that's a thing that your computer has to do, and particularly when you have the computer I have, you don't always have the horsepower for that. Offloading that onto another device can be very handy, and again, audio is the most important thing. The first option I have up here is the Scarlett Solo. This is fantastic and has a preamp built into it in case you wanted to do a low gain mic. This one runs you about $99. It's simple, it's small, and it does the job. This is what I'm looking at to get my wife because she wants to start doing some YouTube stuff on her own. The thing that I have is the Rodecaster Duo, and there are a couple reasons why this came about. One of the big ones is I wanted to get two people on the recording. My wife is incredibly charming and wonderful, and I like doing things with her, so this gave us a chance to do things together, which is fun. But you also get better preamps and more control and more bells and whistles. The ability to adjust filters or gain on the fly is incredibly valuable at a price. These things cost $500, which is not cheap. But there's a big thing I want you to consider as I show these prices up here, and that's, with the events of 2020, a lot of people got into podcasting, a ton, and they bought a lot of gear, and a lot of them have decided that's not for them. What this means is we've just been flooded with a glut of very good gear at much cheaper prices. We just talked about it, but we have a microphone sitting here that's been good for 21 years, and a lot of the audio equipment that we've gone over is just that way. There aren't a lot of new advances in the way these things work. I will say that one of the things that Rode has done, they are a fantastic company that really latched on to that content creator market, and they've made a lot of things easier. But they haven't necessarily made sound better. So it's something to consider when you're looking at this. Absolutely check Facebook Marketplace or whatever used sales go on around you. So we've talked about the expensive stuff, and I want to get to the computer and camera. And I know technically this should be the expensive stuff, but here's the deal. Generally, it's best if you just use what you have. I am still using my 2021 M1 iMac, and understand that isn't the oldest of computers, it's 4 years old, but it also isn't meant to be a big workhorse. I mean, it's an iMac. It's basically a processor stuck to a monitor. This has done editing and everything else for me, including live streams, and it's done it just fine. You don't really need a powerhouse computer for this. The other thing you want to talk about is the thing about mobile gaming is you don't even need a console. You can use your phone. You don't need to worry about capture cards or PlayStations or Xboxes. Everything is on your phone. But that brings us to the camera, and the price point to upgrade from your phone is huge. Most of your phones, and I have an iPhone, Androids work the same way, they have incredible cameras and a lot of good software for taking good video. The next step up, you're starting to get into the $1,200 range to really get an upgrade to your phone. The next question you'll run into is, do I need a camera at all? If you look at stats with faceless channels versus faced ones, there really is no significant bump. Again, a lot of people just listen to YouTube, so that's something to consider. Now, if you're asking the reasons that I went with a faced channel, it's really more to stand out. In the little niche that I'm in Fire Emblem Heroes, there was one channel that used a camera, and that was KCB Brian, and we do very different things. So in order to stand out in the crowd, I recorded my face. Also, I just wanted to try it out. I remember 3% of YouTubers can actually make a living off of what they do, and most of them are just barely scraping by as a living. This is likely just going to be a hobby, so do whatever you have fun with. You can use the computer you have, and you can use your phone as a camera, or just not use a camera at all. Either way, this is stuff that you already have and you don't need to spend money on. The next thing we need to talk about is the room, and you really don't need anything fancy for this. This is a place where we get more into personality than anything else. I've seen plenty of YouTubers record with, their messed up bed right beside them, which, I mean, there is a bed back there, but at least it's made. I don't know. Anyway, the biggest thing for me with the room was that speed was a necessity. I'm a dad, which means that I get single chunks of time rarely, and during those I spend most of that trying to get the setup as quick as possible. My computer is mounted to a wall, and it slides right underneath where I have a gooseneck where I put my phone, and I mean, everything goes very, very quickly into place. The lights are triggered by the push of a button. All of that needs to be as fast as possible so that I can get recording as fast as possible, because again, just don't have a lot of time. Now, there are some things that will pop up, possibly, and one of those is sound treatments. Now, if you set up your desk correctly, you won't need these at all. If you're in a room and you haven't cornered yourself and there are plenty of window treatments and pictures and a bed, which is great at absorbing sound, you won't need any of this. But if you're silly like me and have pushed your setup into a corner so that you get a better view of whatever gamer shelf is back there, you might need sound treatments. Now, what I have is the Elgato sound panels, and those are expensive. Those come out to about $200 for 2 packs, and I got them used, and that's going to be a big theme in all of this. I was very lucky, and a hardware reviewer was basically upgrading. They sent the new blue ones to him to look at, and he had old black ones. So all of the hardware, and it's got very neat hardware that mounts it to the wall, all of it was brand new. He just took the old panels down, sold them all to me for $60, which is really a nice cost. But not everybody gets that lucky, and if you do need sound treatment, and understand, if you don't put it up. You'll know because there's an echo. One of the great ways to look is online for remnants. If you have any studios near you, a lot of the times they've put up just a ton of sound isolation, and they have little cutout pieces that they didn't use during the process. You can get those for very, very cheap. Be on the lookout for those or any other used stuff. But remember, if you don't need this, don't do it at all. The next thing that I want to talk about is lighting. And here's the thing, and my AV folks are probably going to jump down my throat, but your lighting is more important than your camera. The best camera in the world cannot make a bad room look good. You need a well-lit face in order to communicate. And again, this is only if you decide to go the camera route, but what you can start off with is 2 soft boxes, and those will do you really well. Generally, you want 3 lights, but the overhead works just fine as long as you have a dimmer on it. $70 is not bad for that. I was lucky, and my wife was doing a lot of TikTok at the time, and so she had soft boxes that I could use. The problem, of course, was that we had to move them from room to room, and again, time is of the essence. What I ended up getting was the Elgato key lights. Elgato is another company that sells really slick hardware for content creators, and I got 2 of those up. The reason I paid the premium of $200 was really for the automation and the ability to turn those on with the push of a button and get everything set up is very, very valuable for me. They're also fantastic lights though, and I love that. Just understand that lighting in general is a ton of trial and error. Even the best folks that do this are quicker at the trial and error part, but do understand that even then, you just throw stuff up and you see if it works. From there, we get to the gamer shelf, because I don't know why gamers need gamer shelves, but I thought they looked really neat. If you look at the colored lighting in both my overhead and in the cabinet, it ran me about $200, which is on the expensive side, but these were hue lights that I could start at the push of a button. Those are overheads, I have a lamp back there, and then of course all the strip lighting as well. There are much cheaper ways to do this. A lot of them come with little hand remotes. You know, it's not as fancy as pushing a button, but it is a remote button. So I keep that in mind. You can get those probably for about $100, but we talked about with room lighting, it's not a necessity. If you look at the shelf itself, again, I just looked for used stuff, and this one just popped up after months of looking. And my shelves have kind of an organizational system. The bottom one is hardware. I probably need to redo that because I didn't realize that with a camera angle, the bottom shelf was going to be the most in view, but I guess it does make me look more tech savvy, so maybe that's a thing. The second shelf is all about the kid. My son loves to decorate that, and that is his shelf, and he gets to put whatever stuffies or Legos or anything else that he wants on that shelf goes. The third one is a lot of my gaming stuff. I have my old Xbox, which I played just a ton, and I have my Switch, which I also played a ton of, and then there's the Marth figurine. And if you ever have the opportunity to buy one of these Good Smile figurines, don't. They are so detailed and amazing looking that immediately you will want to buy more. because they're that crazy good looking. I cannot believe how well done they are. Again, this is one of those things that you don't want to have it that expensive. I have so far managed to just buy one, and then I have the Dimitri on order, but we won't talk about that. For now, it's just one. The last shelf is just miscellaneous stuff, along with the big stuffed fish, which somehow I ended up having my wife hit me over the head when things happen in my live stream. So if you would like to get me hit over the head, you can super chat and give me a concussion. I don't know why that was a good idea, but here we are. What I want to really drive home with decorations in general is, remember, this is supposed to reflect you. So a lot of this should be stuff you have laying around in the house. You don't want to go out and buy a whole bunch of new stuff because, well, then again, it's not you. So save yourself some money and really make this your own. The last piece of hardware I want to talk about is my Stream Deck, and these are 100% optional, but I love this thing. I use it for everything. In Final Cut Pro, actually in most software that does video editing, they have these crazy shortcuts that you have to remember, and I have programmed all of my most used ones in there so that I can very quickly have routines. It is such a time saver, but also I use it for live streaming, which is what it was designed for, and I use it for Photoshop, and just as a general control for the room, I use it for general lighting. It is a fantastic tool that is so much fun, but again, that is pure splurge at $250, which is definitely not cheap. So the next thing I want to talk about is software. I feel like this is a spot where people really get wrapped around the axle. And I need you to know that there are a ton of free options that are very, very good. I started with iMovie, and that worked just fine when I wasn't doing a camera. The limit there is you can only do 2 layers, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, but I got around and did just fine. If I had known about DaVinci Resolve, I would have used that. That is an excellent software package that has a free tier that is very good and fully capable. I think if I was starting again, that would be the way to go, but these are both free and fantastic. What I have now is Final Cut Pro, and that cost $300. That sounds expensive. The thing with that is it's one license for the lifetime of the software, and I am such a big fan of not having subscription fees. I hate those things. Apple has continued to upgrade that software, and you've only had to pay one price for the entire life of it. DaVinci Resolve is the same way, and it has a license that you can buy that, again, is for the lifetime of the software, and it's around the $300 mark as well. And again, it gives you some extra features and fun things that you can use. The thing that I would caution against is Adobe Premiere. And of course, this is for folks that are starting. If you're already using it and know it, it's hard to get out of those systems. But generally, it's going to run you about $252 a year. This channel's been going strong for about 3 years. If you think about the Final Cut Pro price versus the Adobe Premiere yearly price, that's close to 3 times as much that I would have spent on that. And that is crazy. The other problem with Adobe Premiere right now is that it is a bit unstable. It is very much in the phase where someone needs to burn it down and start over, and they probably will soon, but as of right now, I really do think Final Cut Pro and DaVinci Resolve are the better software packages. As far as audio, I generally use GarageBand. It's free and it just works. I've looked at a lot of expensive paid solutions. What I do is a single voice, and that's probably what a lot of you guys are looking at as well. There's just no reason to get an expensive audio package. There are so many good free ones right now. So do yourself a favor and don't spend money in this spot. The next thing I want to talk about is video assets and basically the little animations that I create for my videos. All of these are done in Keynote, which is weird because Keynote's supposed to be a PowerPoint replacement, but you look it up and it's absolutely amazing at creating animations, and it's free. I have looked at Apple Motion and After Effects, and those do give you more, but for what I do, this is easier and way cheaper. Plus, I like the way my animations look right now, so there may be something in the future where I want an upgrade to that. As of right now, though, this is one of the steals that I have in this entire list. Keynote is one of the ways I make my stuff look so slick, and I have been very, very impressed with that software. I don't know of a PC version of that. If you do, leave it in the comments. I would love to hear. I always like hearing about new softwares and stuff like that. Plus, the folks who are watching this could probably use that information as well. The last software I want to talk about is Photoshop. And if you're just starting off with thumbnails, I used Keynote actually when I first started for those. And there's Canva that you can use for free and lots of other good solutions. But none of them are quite as powerful as Photoshop. And I am actively looking to get out of the Adobe umbrella in general, but as of right now, it's about $240 a year. The thing is, thumbnails are so important. A lot of people look at this in a negative light and bring up, if no one will click on your thumbnail, then your video will never get watched. But there's another big piece to that, and creating a thumbnail and a title first gives you a lot of focus into what your video is about, and there's nothing better than a focused video. That is a huge asset and something you should be aiming for. It's why I put such a high priority on thumbnails, and you should too. So I want to look at the cost breakdown. The biggest thing is, if you want to start right now, $40 and a Yeti Nano plugged into your computer will absolutely get you there. And I've said it, but you won't know the lessons you need to learn until you start recording videos. Getting out there and just starting is the most valuable teacher. If you're looking at the next upgrade, you have the MV7 that's just the USB mic, and that's runs you about $400. Most of that is in the microphone though. But keep in mind, the thing I love so much about this kind of hobby is that you can slowly build. You can get a Yeti Nano and then slowly earn up for an MV7. And then if you wanted to, you could add a softbox and start recording with your phone with video. And there's a lot of different things you can do slowly instead of having to just chunk over thousands of dollars at one time. If you're looking at what I'm running, this is about a $2,300 setup if you were to buy it straight off of Amazon. Now remember, a lot of this was bought used, and there are some big savings to be had, but what I wanted was a straight off of Amazon right now cost just for comparison. And the big chunk of that is in the microphone and, of course, the audio interface. That is a lot of cost there. The stuff down below, a lot of that is just fun that you can slowly tack on as you go. The wave panels and the key light and the hue lights and the stream deck. And if I'm looking at, so if you're looking at splurges, obviously microphone is the way to go. The next one up though would probably be the fully featured audio editing with Final Cut Pro and DaVinci Resolve if you go that way. Both of those would probably be my next recommendation, but that's a heavy hitter there and something that you can slowly earn up for. And then you have Photoshop, which I wrinkle my nose at every time I see how much I'm paying a year for that. But again, it's $2,300 and the channel itself has been around for about 3 years. There's another piece that I'm kind of alluding to, and that's the fact that the ideal situation is that the channel is slowly paying for all of this. Now, listen, as long as you're budgeting your money and you know where it's going, there's no wrong way to do this. But when you use your channel as something that gates the equipment that you can buy, it's a wonderful way to check yourself. And, you know, sometimes we run out of control and think that we need a $5,000 camera when maybe we're earning $50 a month. That's clearly not a good way to go. And I like having the FEHology account there to keep me in check so that I don't go absolutely crazy with equipment, because I love equipment. I would buy it all if I could. The one exception, and we've talked about it, but you have to start somewhere, and that somewhere is a microphone. And I've given you 3 very good options, but no, there are a lot of them out there. The thing I want to point out, though, what you get out of not just dumping thousands of dollars immediately into your channel is you create a lot of creativity. There are a lot of creative solutions that you would not have thought of if you didn't have to do it a certain way. Keynote is that for me. I never would have guessed that Keynote would be as powerful as it is. It's a fantastic software, and if I had just dumped money into this and got After Effects or Motion, I would have never known about it. That is something powerful that is saving me money. Understand that when you have creative solutions, it makes your channel individual. It's what makes it you. Those are some of the fun things that will make you stand out and save you money. This is a great way to go. So I highly encourage you to get started on this. It's been a lot of fun for me and has helped me in a lot of different areas of my life. If you're curious about more of my content, I have some of it right here. Members, you are amazing. And this video was done on a member goal. So thank you guys for always stretching me. Take care and schedule an appointment with your FEHologist real soon.